All right, Tattle episode 99.05. It's the media analysis show that Bill Doris and I typically do together, but he's running late. So we're waiting for him, but I'm just going to hit the road running with this because it turns out now our kids are not just going to get indoctrinated into all kinds of critical theory, but they are now going to have to learn about how to spot fake news per the government, which just means that the government is going to tell kids what's true. It has nothing to do with recognizing truth from false or fiction and fact. It is about what the government has decided, or special interests, whoever's in power has decided is true, and then indoctrinating kids into that mindset. This is an article from USA Today. I think there's two big stories here. First off, the story of teaching quote unquote media literacy to kids. But the second story is how the media covers these topics, because there is zero criticism of the danger that this potentially leads to with teaching kids based on government standards what is true and what is false. And why would they? Because they kind of work in lockstep, right? So the media and the government seem to be of the same mindset as to what's fact versus fiction. We've seen the influence of the government on big tech also, and what we're allowed to say on platforms like YouTube. Let's go through a little bit of this article from USA Today. Used to work for Tegna, which used to be Gannett, which owns USA Today. So kind of came from the same family. They started a series, I guess you would call like a fact-checking series called Verify. And that was something they thought was going to save the news business, was to do all these fact-checking Verify segments. It didn't really work because the public doesn't necessarily trust the media to verify anything. But when you read the USA Today article, it's very similar. It's just like cheerleading that this is a great thing. As the headline says, recognizing fake news, media literacy now required subject in California schools. And the big picture from the article is just that this is going to help kids spot what is propaganda from political dissidents. Really, one graph in this article talks about how kids can't spot fake news about election interference, and so we really have to get on that. It's always about democracy and saving democracy. And then the other thing they cited was public health. These are the two buzz topics. These are the two hot button issues that the government really has been on top of over the last couple of years: elections, or as they call it, saving democracy, and public health, COVID, right? Public health restrictions, the vaccines, all that stuff. And so they're losing control of the narrative because of social media. So now they're trying to get back in control and get them early. And we're talking young kids. So this is California schools now required to teach students how to recognize fake news by incorporating media literacy into lessons in English, science, math, and history classes throughout every grade level. So every grade level in English, science, math, and history, they're going to be teaching what they consider to be media literacy. One thing I thought was really interesting, because first I was like, well, California, they've gone off the deep end, and I'll also show you something about New York. But it turns out that a lot of states, according to this article, do this stuff. States such as New Jersey, Illinois, Delaware also require media literacy lessons for students, Berman said on his website. At least 18 state legislatures have made steps to prioritize media literacy education in schools, said Aaron McNeil, founder and CEO of Media Literacy Now. Sounds like somebody I should probably have on the show at some point so we can have a healthy debate about this topic, because I probably disagree with a lot of the foundation for why she thinks this is important, saying that their Massachusetts-based organization pushes for media literacy education in schools. So Washington State, where we came from, making some notable moves surrounding media literacy, she said. The state has funded teacher training and professional development, also as someone within its education agency who focuses on media literacy and how to implement it in a classroom. Now, this talks about the moral obligations and ethical standards. That's what they want to teach students: moral obligations and ethical standards regarding what appears on social media networks and digital platforms. Well, what does that mean? Moral obligations and ethical standards. I mean, to me, one of the things I read into this, and granted, I'm reading my own definition into this, is things that we've seen over the last couple of years. Do your part. Don't kill grandma. Don't look in that direction. Don't listen to those doctors. You have an ethical obligation to be a good citizen and to turn a blind eye to what's happening. To me, this is basically saying there's not just a pragmatic way to spot fake news, this as per the government or special interest, like I said, but you have an ethical and moral obligation to do so. And this is something I've talked a lot about on this channel as somebody who used to be in television news, that there is a high horse mentality for journalists nowadays to be ignorant of the subjects of which they're covering. There's almost this badge of pride now if you don't know anything about the COVID vaccine, or if you don't know anything about political dissidents who question the elections. Matt Taibbi talked about writing his article about Rush Limbaugh dying, and how many people in sort of the neoliberal circles couldn't believe that he listened to Rush Limbaugh. But he listened to Rush Limbaugh so he would know who Rush Limbaugh is and what Rush Limbaugh talked about. And they couldn't believe that he would give him the time of day. Well, how are you supposed to cover something that you don't know? But now it's like a badge of honor to be ignorant, and not just to be ignorant and then to go out and tell people that you know what you're discussing. Somehow this crazy delusional reality is something that we take pride in. And if you listen to somebody now, of course we call it platforming, endorsing, and ignorance is not just bliss. Ignorance is a badge of honor in today's world. So it's like telling kids that there is a moral obligation, an ethical standard to look in the direction the government is going to teach you or influence you to look in. And if you look in the opposite direction, you are no longer moral or ethical. And this is just like a heavier burden on people to just keep whipping them over the back, that if they look in the direction that the government does not want them looking in, or the journalists that work lockstep with the government telling you what is fake news and are almost always wrong about that you're being a bad citizen, you're being immoral. It's a honestly, I mean, I have to give them a round of applause for the effort here, because it's effective. It's highly effective to make people feel like they're going to be a bad person, frankly, if they look under the curtain. You know, they look under the curtain. Now you're immoral and you're unethical. Just to show you a little bit more about this, it says that Berman said in the bill's text that 82%, this is the bill in California, citing a study out of Stanford University, the bill's text that 82% of middle schoolers couldn't tell the difference between ads and a news story. And that's a problem because you need to be able to tell what's paid for advertising versus a news story. Okay, well, first off, I know a lot of you already know this, but a lot of newsrooms do paid content, and and work with, frankly, we saw this pairing up with the government for like the vaccine clinics and these health stories that are sponsored by hospitals. This kind of stuff happens in the media, but the thing I think is really interesting is that when I read through this article, what I didn't see was that the government is concerned about students telling the difference between government propaganda and news stories. I did not see that. I see they're concerned about ads and news stories, but I didn't see that 82% of middle schoolers couldn't tell the difference between something the government is lying to us about and a real piece of journalism, because that never ends up in these articles about media literacy. Rarely in the articles about teaching media literacy or fake news or fact checking or misinformation, which everybody loves. See, of course, with misinformation on the rise. With misinformation on the rise. According to who? Exactly. Because this is the best time in history, really, for those of us who want to have a workaround to see something besides the disinformation that's spread by the government and by very powerful corporations. This is the best time to be alive for that. We've had the most access to real information and accurate information that we've ever had. That's why the censorship machines have revved up. And it's why the media organizations, in my opinion, are doubling down on cheerleading censorship, because the truth is getting out there. Though I think a lot of the folks in those worlds, especially the journalists I still know in the news business, I think they really they really believe that they're doing the right thing. They take it as a reverse endorsement when we say fake news to them. It's like they hear it like when my kid says, "I don't want to eat broccoli tonight." It's like, well, we're just trying to give you something healthy and you don't like it. That's the way a lot of journalists look right now. So I think it's fascinating that when you read these articles, I've gone through basically the entire thing. It's all cheerleading. You know, it's all positive. There's literally zero criticism of where this could lead with indoctrinating kids early on about misinformation or fake news. Like as if this is just all it is. This is all that it is. It's just a perfect, pure program sponsored by the government that will help us gain media literacy. I mean, and do you think if the government were really, let's talk about this, if the government were really interested in spotting fake news, do you think that, or holding the media accountable, frankly, you know, holding the media accountable to fake news, do you think that they would get such positive articles about their efforts? I mean, do you think journalists would be so proud or happy or like uncritical of this if they weren't working in lockstep together? Do you think that there would be such cheerleading for these government efforts? Of course not. If the journalists were concerned at all about the government, you would never see articles like this. There would be multiple points of concern, or just like, well, at least there's another person in the article who says maybe this isn't a good idea. There's not a single person like that in this article. So if the journalists out there who are writing these mainstream media articles or on television were concerned at all about government crackdown on what they're doing, which they're not because they're saying the same thing, they would not put out articles like this. But I think that should tell us all, like I said, there are two big takeaways from these instances of like news headlines discussing how the government's going to teach media literacy. The first is the media literacy classes themselves, which are hilariously sad that this is happening. And secondly, it's the news coverage of them. It should just tell us a lot about where the media is now and how in tune they are with what the government's saying. Because like I said, you wouldn't see positive articles about this stuff if journalists were genuinely concerned about the government teaching media literacy. I mean, just think about that for a second. That should make every journalist pause for a second and say, wait a second, do we really think this is a good idea? Government funded education about what the media does, about what journalists do? I mean, since when did we ever have a good relationship? We should never have had, you know, there should always be an antagonistic relationship there. And so this just, I don't know, it's just fascinating to me as a former TV news journalist that they just get such positive coverage of this stuff. All right, don't forget, you guys, if you're reading this article with me today and you're like, yeah, I'm just ready for 5 o'clock to come sometime, you can always go to AllisonWinePromo.com. You got to get those Christmas gifts in soon. All right, so get your order in, AllisonWinePromo.com. These are amazing Malbecs from Argentina. I'm not kidding you when I say they're my favorite wines. You get 50% off the wine and 50% off shipping. It's a great conversation starter. If you're bringing wine to a party, you're bringing wine to dinner, you're giving wine as a gift, it's a great way to support my work. Bonner Wine has been with me since the beginning. I'm going to get Will Bonner on at some point to do an interview because I think all the stuff they do is really interesting. It's like the anti-factory farmed wine. It tastes great. It's a great gift. And like I said, they are one of the main reasons I'm still doing what I'm doing. So I really appreciate them. They never tell me what to do or what I can say or anything. And they just produce a great product. Very remote regions of Argentina, extreme altitude between 6,000 and 9,000 feet, family farms, hand-picked grapes, no filtration, natural fermentation, and just a great product. So go check them out. Don't forget, for your hangover the next day, twinenginecoffee.com/Allison. You get your USDA certified organic roast, light roast, dark roast, espresso. They also have little sampler packs. If you want to do stocking stuffers, you have a coffee lover in your life, you want to put some in their stocking, go to twinenginecoffee.com/Allison. They also have tea. That's the fruit that goes around the coffee bean. And I like it very much. It's great with a little bit of lemon and even in the winter. And then also you want your vitamin D. I take a high vitamin D cod liver butter oil blend. It's one of the products I really do credit it with stopping what I think were chronic cavities. I used to get cavities all the time, every time I went to the dentist. And I went to the dentist a lot. I used to go to the dentist regularly every 6 months. I don't anymore. But my teeth have been doing really well. I actually went 3 years at one point in Seattle, no dentist, but I was taking this product and I never had cavities. And so you can use the promo code Allison10. It's a great way to get vitamin D for other reasons too, but Allison10 is the promo code, or you can go to the affiliate links in the description of the video or the pinned comments and just use the affiliate link. It's a great way to support my work as well, and just a great company. What? You saw a poisonous spider? Outside. You saw a poisonous spider out in the barn. Okay. Saw a poisonous spider out in the barn. So, And he ran away. Okay, looks like Daddy's going to help you. Look, okay. Breaking news. We got a poisonous spider out in the barn. Help us, everybody. Okay. I am going to break this down for supporters only because that's what we do on Tittle Tattle. It's a supporter only show, usually every week. So if you've been watching on Rumble or YouTube, thanks for watching over there. Consider being a supporter over at Locals, AllisonMorrow.locals.com, where we're going to continue on with the show. $5 a month to go one-on-one with the most censored people on the internet, and it's a great way to support my work as well. It's just, like I said, supporter only show. I think on Locals, I'm going to keep it up for everybody this time. So you can get it for free this time, but usually I cut it for supporters only after a couple minutes. But I'm going to cut it on YouTube now. So thanks.